10 random magic cards rated day 134. Ziggy is exactly where he was when yesterday ended. That does not mean that I batch these videos. It does mean that. But anyway, what's first card of Wednesday here? It's Overwhelmed Archivist. So we got to do another transform guy to start the day off. 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a 3/2 human wizard. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card, pitch a card. Disturb for 4 mana, so you can cast it from your yard, transform for its disturbed cost. If you do cast it for 4 mana from your yard, it is a 2/1 flying spirit wizard. Whenever it attacks, draw a card, pitch a card. When if Archive Haunt would be put into a yard from anywhere, exile it instead, which all these disturbed creatures have that text. Pretty bad. Pretty bad. A 4 mana 2/1 flyer is pretty bad, even if it loots when it attacks. A 3 mana 3/2 is kind of bad, even when it loots when it attacks. So I'm just going to give this like a 2.5, something like that. I'm just never, it's very hard to impress me with these like transformable double-sided guys. I should like them more. They should be better, just as a matter of course, because they're 2 magic cards in 1. But often they're overcosted because they're 2 cards in 1, and that's what's going on here. Next today is Alibaba from 4th edition. It's actually from Arabian Nights. And that's a good looking magic card too. Look at that. Arabian Nights red is a great like shade of red. This is a single red mana for a 1/1 human rogue. It says summon Alibaba. It's a human rogue now. You can pay a red to tap a wall. Terrible. God awful. Really just not good. Who cares if you're tapping walls? I get the flavor. I think the flavor is delicious given the story. He says open sesame and the wall opens up, and so you can just open walls. Very cute. No wall can block you if you have Alibaba in your party. That's flavor. Even in 1994, they knew how to do flavor. But this is, overall, man, I'm going to give this like a 1.13. It's, 1.19. It blocks. It does that, but we'll move on to the Raven Man. Interesting stained glass art here, but this is what the card would look like if it looked like a magic card. This is 2 mana, 1 and a black for a 2/1 legendary human wizard. At the beginning of each end step, if a player discarded a card this turn, create a 1/1 black bird creature token with flying, and this creature cannot block. You can also pay 3 and a black and tap it and have each opponent discard a card at sorcery speed. Hello again, Ziggy. You were not gone for long. You're the star of the show, baby. How do you feel about the Raven Man, Ziggy? Ziggy. Nothing. This is okay, man. I do like the Raven Man. I don't think that he's... Let me say this. The sad part of the Raven Man is that there is currently a discard deck in Standard that might not be tier 1 or even 2. You don't see it too much in tournaments or in MTGO challenges, but you do see it on the arena like every day. And even the dedicated discard deck in Standard does not play this guy. And that should tell you something. Really should. I think he's a cool commander, though. In a discard-centric commander deck, he's only a couple of mana to get your commander out. You'll fill the skies pretty quickly, It's each end step, if anyone discarded for any reason, yourself included. If you discarded a card, it triggers the Raven Man, which is something that I think in Standard we haven't necessarily explored enough, right? So I don't hate this card, and I'm going to give it the honorary 5 of the day, mostly because, again, cheap, unique commander that works for a very specific deck type that doesn't get a whole lot of love in that format. And, again, I think there's sort of, maybe we need to retry it in Standard is all I'm going to say. It's a card I like. It's also a character I loved for a long time before it got a magic card, and I'm just happy that it got a card, and I like its card too. Flavor-wise, again, kind of cool. But Contraband Kingpin is up next from Kadesh. This actually saw like the tiniest amount of play in Standard. This is 2 mana, black-blue for a 1/4 Aetherborn rogue with lifelink. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. So, again, very small amount of play, but it did see some play, and it saw a lot of play in like budget decks of that time period, but even like tier 1 and 2 decks, this would pop up in, because 2 mana for a 1/4, you can't bolt it right back then, and still to this day that mattered a lot. It blocks almost anything, has lifelink, so it kind of brick walls aggro decks while gaining you life at the same time. And if you happen to have artifacts in your deck, scrying 1 whenever one of them comes into play like helps fix your next draws. Decent in like combo decks that are looking for specific artifacts, because other artifacts will help you draw into those artifacts or whatever you're trying to do. So Contraband Kingpin is a card that I did not think I would be nostalgic for. My brain kind of forgot about this until it popped up in front of me, but maybe it's that way for you too. You know, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you probably remembered this card from Kadesh Standard because we played it in a few decks. And I think it's a card a lot of us remember fondly, but also never think about, ever. So, you know, good to see you, buddy. I actually like it a lot. I'm going to give this a 4.6 because, you know, not the worst stats. Pretty decent keyword. Nice actual real ability. It's not that bad. Cheap package too. Spitting Earth is from Mirage. Yes, it is. In fact, this got it right. This is 2 mana, 1 and a red for a sorcery that deals damage to target creature equal to the number of mountains that you control. This was an important card back in the day to deal more than 3 damage to a thing in your red deck. And I've even seen some commander players play this. In IRL, I've seen paper commander players play this card, resolve it from their hands. In cardboard. So that's interesting. This card has seen spots of play throughout its history, but you know, not a whole lot, so say, right? But it is pretty cool, you know, for 2 mana, being able to deal 5 damage to a 5 toughness thing is not something that you were often able to do back in the day in your just red deck. So believe it or not, this was played even despite the sorcery speed. I'm going to give Spitting Earth a 3.9, and that's actually no, let's give Spitting Earth a 4.1, because again, this will still pop up sometimes, because in Commander it just deals 8 damage to a target, and whether that thing is a thing you wouldn't otherwise be able to bolt to death, or it's your own, I don't know, Screaming Nemesis, Boros Reckoner type creature, that's good too. We'll move on to Orc Spy here. We've already done this card just recently, actually. Maybe one day we'll get a card from Fallen Empires I can be proud of. I'm not sure. But Unauthorized Exit is next from Murders at Karlov Manor. This is 2 mana, 1 and a blue for an instant. Return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and then Surveil 1. Not the worst tasting gravy in the world, but I will say, you know, like, this is my mom's gravy. Probably rather have my grandmother's gravy. You know, and she just, you know, my mom's gravy's good. She's my mom. She makes good gravy, but then, you know, you go to grandma's house and it's like, oh, okay, this is the gravy. So, you know, I'm not, it's fine. I'll give the card a 3.9. The 3.9 I was going to give Spitting Earth. We'll move on to Mammoth Growth here from Kaldheim. This is 3 mana, 2 and a green for an instant. A creature gets +4/+4 till end of turn, but you can foretell this for a single green mana. So you pay 2 mana to foretell this, exile it face down, and then on a later turn you can cast it for a single green. +4/+4 for a single green, pretty good. You know, but the fact that you have to spend 2 mana on your pump spell to not pump a guy right now is not really conducive to aggro in general. So that's not great. It's certainly no like Might of Old Krosa or Become a Mince or anything like that. So I'm just going to give this, those poor people are about to have their house crushed. That's so sad. I'm going to give this a 2.8. Something like that. You know, it's a fine. It can be a fine pump spell. But we'll move on to Canker Bloom. I love you, Canker Bloom. What a good magic card, man. This is from Phyrexia Albo. This is all will be one. We call it Albo around here. This is 2 mana, 1 and a green for a 3/2 Phyrexian Fungus. You can pay 1 and sack it to choose one of these things. Either blow up an artifact or an enchantment, or you can proliferate. That's a cool extra thing to be able to do. A 2 mana 3/2 that, you know, casts Disenchant on a body, you know, block, blow up that artifact, that's all good. Block, proliferate, that's all good. Get some damage in the early game, because 2 mana for a 3/2 is a good stat line. I just really like this card. I really do like this card a good bit. I'm going to give it a 4.93, something like that. A 4.93. I think Canker Bloom is just very good. You know, in the vein of like green creatures like Reclamation Sage or Uktabi Orangutan that can blow up an artifact or whatever when they come into play. I think this is like better than most of those. I think it's better than Uktabi Orangutan. It might even be better than Rex Sage. Although Rex Sage having an actual ETB, like blinkable ETB trigger, is probably better altogether. This still like blows up more things, has the proliferate thing going for it. You know, I don't know. I really like Bloom an awful lot. Orlando Bloom, but Forest is up next. All basics get a 5. They don't count, but fantastic art by Andreas Roca here. That is beautiful. You see this little kind of step going on here, this step thing with like the waterfalls, and there's a little pool right there, and look at how gorgeous these trees are, saturated nicely, like really Beautiful. Blended nicely, too. Look at these yellows blending to the greens and the darker greens. Gorgeous. Really, really, really good work on this job, on this forest, Andreas. I like it. What was that from? I'm not sure I remember. I'll look when I actually upload the video again. Nashi, Moon Sage's Scion, is coming up next. This is from Neon Dynasty? Yeah, it is from Neon Dynasty. Poor Nashi, right? This never actually saw play. And that's just wild, dude. This is a good Magic card. It still costs $1 to order. It is 3 mana, 1 and 2 black for a 3/2 Rat Ninja. It's legendary. You can also ninjutsu this into play off an unblocked creature for 4 mana. Whenever Nashi Moon Sage's Scion deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of each player's library. Until end of turn, you may play one of those cards. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. Has always been more playable in Commander than it ever was in Standard. It's good in the Ninjas deck, right? The Eureka deck that's really popular in Commander, from what I can tell. But in Standard, never really did its thing, and that's sad, because I actually think that this was a good Magic card in Standard, and just, again, never really got the due that I felt like it deserved. But still, decent Commander card. If nothing else, I will give Nashi a 5.14. Mostly for its work in Eureka, but I think this can do work in decks even outside of that. But final card of the day here is Ziggy finally does what he wanted to do and gets on my keyboard so he can ruin everything. I love you, buddy, but you just, you're dangerous. You're a dangerous man up here, you tuna fish. Get on down and start the climb again, buddy. I'm sorry. Sisyphean task for Ziggy today, but it is what it is. We'll move on to Maulfist Doorbuster over here from Kadesh. This is 4 mana, 3 and a red for a 4/2 human warrior. When it enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy. And when it attacks, you may pay an energy. If you do, a creature cannot block this turn. So kind of a frenzied goblin kind of variant here, but it costs way too much mana. It looks very drafty. Though I do kind of want the thing on his fist. It's like the thing that makes him a doorbuster. I guess that's how we're busting doors. That thing's cool. But apart from that, pretty bad. Pretty bad. Even with the blinkable, energy trigger. Still. I'm going to give this guy, a 2.6. Somewhere in that range. But that is all for Wednesday, everybody. Sorry, that's everything. I'll see you tomorrow, though. Promise you that. I'll be here. I'm not going to let you down. Bye.